I thought about what had happened. But being surrounded by the other trees made me feel stronger. Some days I even felt strong enough to do my old job again. That's when I knew I was ready. It was time to go home. A machine came to pull me from the ground. The noise scared me. Leaving scared me even more. We drove downtown through the city. Now I was worried to go back. What if something bad happened again? I already missed the other trees. Then I saw it. One shining spire, and many more towers surrounding a new plaza. And in the plaza, they had planted a forest. It was filled with trees. Between the trees, they saved 3 empty spaces. 2 spaces remained where the towers once stood. They would stay empty forever, because nothing could fill them. The 3rd space was for me. I wasn't comfortable at first. It had been so long since I heard the wind between the buildings or smelled wet concrete. But I was still surrounded by other trees, and that made me feel stronger. I had a new job now, too. Anyone who felt a shadow overhead could stand under my leaves and find peace. Anyone who was hurt could see how my branches had healed and find hope. In my plaza, filled with so many trees, I am still the first to blossom. And everyone who sees my flowers knows that spring will come. Author's note. I grew up in New York City. For me, like many people who lived there before 9/11, the Twin Towers were a sort of fixed point in the skyline and in my imagination. I'd visited the World Trade Center on a kindergarten class trip, but my strongest images of the towers were from a distance. I can still remember riding in my parents' car and seeing the first view of Lower Manhattan across the Brooklyn wetlands, where the Twin Towers seemed to rise from the water of New York Harbor. I first heard about the survivor tree from my agent, Marietta Zacher, and my editor, Christian Trimmer, who asked whether I'd consider writing and illustrating a book about 9/11 and the tree. Like the survivor tree, I was initially hesitant to return to this particular place and moment in time. After learning more about the tree, I realized this was an extraordinary creature, so much like a human, with a body and limbs that could be broken and healed, and with a life expectancy around 80 years that was nearly cut short by tragedy. The survivor tree is a living thing that faced death and somehow made it through, not unscathed, but alive and continuing to grow. It was healed through its own inner strength and with the care and support of its community. I recognized the survivor tree as a friend and neighbor from my hometown. Here was an incredible opportunity to tell the story of 9/11 and a trauma survivor in a way that felt appropriate for children. The 9/11 attacks happened a few days into my first month of 10th grade. As the years pass, my feelings about that tragedy return more and more to the emotions we felt in the first days and weeks after the towers collapsed, when 9/11 felt like an attack on the New York metropolitan area, and the cleanup was a problem that was ours to solve. The fires were put out by our friends and family, and the rubble was cleared by our neighbors. My cousin, Stephen Adio, was a safety inspector on the site. For a city that prides itself on resilience, 9/11 proved this was no empty boast. New York was battered and broken, and we would take years to heal, knowing many wounds would never disappear. But we were